Hey there, welcome into another edition of Bills Take Two. He's Vic Carucci, I'm Jonathan Acosta. We're taking a look at arguably the most anticipated game of the divisional round in the NFL playoffs this weekend. The Baltimore Ravens, winners of the AFC North, coming to Orchard Park to take on the winners of the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, obviously headlined by the two leading MVP candidates, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Vic, I know that's probably where many people's eyes want to start off, but just initial glance, when you look at this game, what is it that stands out to you about this matchup?
Yeah, what stands out is the obvious that back in September, back in week 4 of the season, we saw a Bills team get trampled by the Ravens, physically manhandled, and it was all about Derrick Henry's running and, of course, Lamar Jackson complementing that. I think this time around it's a very different situation, but I want to start with the Bills offense because I think the real key here is that this cannot be the team that only scores 10 points or a smattering of points. This has to be the Bills team that got itself in gear after that hiccup portion of the season, if you will, and really roll in terms of the ability to produce the 30 touchdowns through the air, the 30 plus on the ground, and set that record. That's the offense that has to show up in Orchard Park, and I think it will because I think the Ravens are vulnerable on the defensive side, particularly on the back end, and however it unfolded back in Baltimore in September, I think there's a really good chance the theme changes here and the Bills can pounce early and pounce plenty.
Since you started off on offense, let's stay there because in that Sunday night matchup in Baltimore, we saw maybe one of the worst games for that Bills offensive line so far this season, maybe along with the Houston game. And the Bills had to, because of the game script, get away from the run game maybe a little bit earlier than they would have wanted to. We've seen how important the run game is for both teams, but especially the Bills also here recently, over 200 yards against the Broncos. How important of an aspect do you think that can be for the Bills if they can keep the game tight and not have to get away from the run game to possibly alleviate some of that Ravens pressure on Josh Allen?
Yeah, because you can't forget who you're facing in terms of this Ravens offense with Lamar Jackson and all that he can do, both as a thrower and runner, and then the Derrick Henry complement. Therefore, your offense, your opposing offense has to play some defense. And what do I mean by that? Keep them off the field. So there needs to be a run component here, a balance that has been a sweet spot that this Bills offense has consistently hit with Joe Brady's play calling. I don't know that we're going to see a replication of what took place against Denver, where the Bills had the ball for more than 41 minutes. That was just crazy versus the 18 or so minutes that the Broncos had it, because the Ravens are a better team, and I would think they'd have more sustained drives. But it is that kind of disparity, that kind of ball control that I think can work to the Bills' advantage. So therefore, James Cook, yes, has to be a big day for him. Ty Johnson has to be involved. We don't know about Ray Davis in concussion protocol, listed as questionable for this game, so we'll see there. But just the way these backs have been incorporated as runners and receivers, along with the plethora of pass catchers that Josh Allen has, utilizing them to the fullest. This has to be a full dose of the Bills offense with Josh Allen, the thrower, and also Josh, the runner, to play some productive football in getting the ball in the end zone. Touchdowns versus field goals are going to matter because of the explosiveness that the Ravens do have. But as much as anything else, the game of keep away from that Ravens offense.
And Vic, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like most people have a belief that the Bills are going to score more than 10 points. The Bills offense is going to perform closer to the 30 points per game that we've seen throughout the course of the season. Maybe a lot more of the concern coming on the Bills' defensive side, where we saw them get gashed against Baltimore. Derrick Henry by himself ran for 199 yards. He had that 87-yard touchdown run that sort of was not a knockout punch, but a big jab to start that game in Baltimore. But the Bills were without some key pieces in that game. No Taron Johnson, no Terrell Bernard, no Matt Milano. I've had some Ravens fans in my mentions this week saying that they must be Bruce Smith or something, or else that it's not going to make that much of an impact in this game. So I'll ask you, how much of an impact is it for Buffalo to have those three guys back in this game?
I think it matters a great deal to have those three key pieces back on the defensive side. I don't know that any of those three physically do the job against the run, but it's also the mind game here, the mental part of this, the being in the right position, the communication between the linebacking core and the defensive line that Matt Milano does so well, and Terrell Bernard also being a highly intelligent, instinctive player, and Taron Johnson taking some things away that can force the issue in terms of what the Ravens do offensively. I mean, I don't mind the fact that you know what's coming at you and that the chore is to stop it. So it's Derrick Henry, right? Run him into that line, and the line just has to be stout. It has to want to make those tackles, chase the ball, get swarm him, and technique-wise, hit him low. I mean, bring him down. The high hits on a big, powerful, long-armed back like him aren't going to get it done. And I thought there were some tackling technique issues in that first game that have to clean up, tighten up. When you hear the Bills players, Sean McDermott and others talk about lessons that they learned, what they learned from that game and how they've grown from that game, those are the lessons. How to tackle and how to bring this guy down. They have had success before against Derrick Henry. It's not a new thing to face him, and it's not a new thing to have success against him. It's just that they let that one get away. And look, I give a lot of credit to the Ravens offensive line for doing the job, mauling, manhandling up front. But stay stout, play your game, and I really think that it's going to be a different outcome.
Zay Flowers, the Ravens' best wide receiver, listed as doubtful for this game. If he can't go, obviously Lamar Jackson's still an incredible quarterback. He's going to get his, but it places that much more of an emphasis on the run game for Baltimore. And I want to ask you, what's the balance for the Bills? Because they like to play in nickel personnel, have Taron Johnson on the field. But we saw the way the Ravens were able to run the ball on them. And the Ravens, just like the Bills, like to go heavy with 6 offensive linemen. The Ravens have a great fullback in Patrick Ricard. If they're going to be living in that sort of personnel in this game, what's the balance for the Bills between playing the nickel personnel that they like to have with Taron Johnson as opposed to maybe having to sacrifice him to get a third linebacker on the field?
Yeah, I really think there's got to be an adjustment from the Bills defense. You cannot be stubborn about wanting to play the pass, knowing that, of course, is something that the Ravens can defeat through. They still, even without Zay Flowers, with Mark Andrews, with Isaiah Likely, there's still a passing game that can generate points for them, Bateman. But I still think that the balance should be go with, at the very least, big nickel, right, or bigger personnel in general, and then dare or make the Ravens' game plan as one-dimensional as possible. Discourage that, those running plays, or discourage the idea that they can live on drives that are all run-driven. A team that wants to run on you basically takes its chances, and by that I mean long plotting drives can result in penalties, can result in drive killers, holding calls, all the things. And by the way, the Ravens are one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. That is a fact. You've got an officiating crew working this game that's right around 14th, I think, ranking about the mid part of the league on the number of flags that are thrown. So I think the officials are going to be on this. Now that can work against the Bills too, but I'm talking about it from a standpoint of a team that is counting on drives that require a lot of plays and a lot of time. The odds of that succeeding aren't always the best. It's that quick strike stuff, which again has to be the Bills' best friend offensively, and that's what I think is. It's a counterbalance between that and a willingness to sell out to stop the run and then try to handle Lamar as the thrower.
It's a 6:30 kickoff on Sunday night, arguably the best game of the NFL weekend. For Vic Carucci, I'm Jonathan Acosta for Channel 2 Sports.